Hello, I'm Douglas T for Tiger Stewart, and today I'm joined by Ross Sinclair. Rather than me introducing you, I was just wondering if you've got a little shorthand way you would introduce yourself to new viewers.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I suppose because I do kind of a lot of different things. Sometimes, depending on the context, I do that in a different way. But
You're wearing different hats.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but they're all the same. 3 badges, 1 hat. That's me. Well, I suppose I'm a visual artist, and that's probably how sort of most folk might kind of know me. But before that and during that and maybe after that as well, I was a musician as well, and that's maybe how I know you to start with. And I do some other bits and pieces. I write about art sometimes, and I also work at Glasgow School of Art, where I'm a professor of fine art there. So I've worked there for about 25 years, unbelievably. So that's actually quite an important part of who I am, I think, as well. You know, working there and working with, you know, that 25 years of students coming through, and I feel that's quite an... although the things I do there have changed a bit over the years, but for me, you know, I was working there today with the students, and that's an important part of... that keeps me going, you know, it's good.
Well, it's a funny thing because I was thinking before you arrived today that when we met, which I reckon is about 35 years ago, we were teenagers, but I was sort of thinking, do you know what? I sort of think we possibly still are teenagers in a way. I don't know if you feel that way or...
Yeah, no, I think you're right. You know, I think, of course, it's a mindset. And I think a lot of the things I do, I just try to sort of hold on to that sort of pre-specialisation mindset of everything being open and the forms and possibilities of any sort of creative life not being too pinned down, you know, and just to see where things take you and collaborations and different people. And
well, the thing you're saying there about it not being too pinned down, I think is pretty relevant, particularly with yourself. Well, I have a thing that I often think of creativity not just being... I'm primarily thought of as being a guy that's in a group and writes songs, but for me, so much of what I do every day I see as being part of my creative life.
Yeah.
Whether I'm absorbing other people's stuff, but you said you're a visual artist, but your artwork has very often featured music.
Absolutely.
And featured text.
Yeah.
And actually featured yourself.
Yeah.
And your body.
Yeah.
And so it's I like the whole idea that there's that notion of, I'm not just the guy who dabs stuff on a canvas, and
I'm not even the guy who dabs stuff on a canvas.
Well, that's not primarily what you really do at all. But all of these things are all part of one thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's interesting to talk about the music. I mean, I'd started at art school and was playing in a couple of different bands like everybody was. Gods for All Occasions, you remember, we played a few, supported you guys one time.
Yeah, and
Hat and Rig Hotel.
Raymond McGinley went on to be in Teenage Fan Club.
And Neil Mingus played the bass in that. And we could never find a drummer, of course. But I was playing a gig with them at the art school, and I was in first year when Sean, singer in the Soup Dragons, who was like, knew somebody, and he was there, and after the gig he said, I'm trying to get this band going, I can't get a drummer, do you want to try and play the drums? And I was singing and playing guitar in this other band. I said, I'll give it a go, you know. Went to rehearsal and it just sort of clicked, you know, and suddenly it was a bit like, wow, this sort of now sounds like the band somehow, you know. And I don't know, it was just that sort of moment. And so then the experience of, you know, being the Soup Dragons and, you know, doing loads of records and doing a lot of the record covers and stuff and doing some of the videos and working with Sean and all these different things, and that sort of creative energy when you get a bunch of people together, that I was really excited about that. And, you know, that thing which you know so well when you spend ages recording the music for a record, and then if you're involved, you do the cover and do whatever else, poster and everything like that, and then, you know, you get it out and somebody goes and buys it and they look at it and they take it back to their bedroom, they're looking at all the cover and reading everything, looking at the sleeve, getting the vinyl out, looking at Porky Prime Cup, whatever wee thing you've got, all that stuff, and then you put it on the record player and it's like, wow, and then it's the music. And so that sort of relationship with a band, I really, really like that, and really like that intimate sort of relationship. And when I went back to art school, when I left the Soup Dragons, I think I took some of that with me, that sort of feeling of, the stuff you make can be badges. Well, I'm still doing it now.
But now I wear badges a lot of time as you do.
Yeah, I know. It's just, so it can be, for me, it can be badges, posters, records, music, painting, sculpture, people, all at the same time sometimes. So I think that time in the band really, really made me think about what these sort of creative relationships could be with other people, but also with sort of audiences and people who might get involved, and how exciting that can be. And they can really be part of that work as well, and
it's interesting because a lot of people talk about, I think, pop musicians coming out of art school and things, but I do think the other way around is kind of interesting. And you having that time away almost from art school and doing the pop thing, because earlier on we were talking about part of the whole thing. You used to go to record shops and there'd be things like trays of badges. So it'd be this very visual thing, and then you'd buy your vinyl and you'd be smelling it and looking at every detail. And as you say, even all the stuff that was engraved in the run-out groove.
It's like the secret knowledge of whoever it was,
So that's all. It's like pop music. It wasn't just a musical form, So I guess it was like that. It was pop art.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think that's so much the case. And, I suppose, I'd let a year out when I was in the band because I'd started already, and then did another year out, and then did another year out, and then I went back and said, kind of another year out, and they said, wait a minute, how many years out have you had? And I was like, 3, I think, and they were like, wait, you've got to finish your degree in 7 years, so you either need to come back now or forget it, sort of thing. And that sort of pushed my hand a wee bit in the band and stuff. I thought, actually, I still want to do art, and I want to go back to that. So, but as I say, that sort of idea of how, it's like, it's so exciting doing gigs and stuff. And even if you do, like, remember once at a gig, I can't remember where it was in London, we got these massive big sort of like transparencies made up that we sort of rented, these massive big sort of like, they were just like old school projectors, but before video projectors, but we had all these slides that were up behind us and stuff, and okay, it wasn't a video screen, but in a way it was much more interesting because somebody, probably like Wee Davis or someone like that, was like changing all these slides, and it was all this crazy sort of light show, that we were sort of in front of us and everything. And I don't know, just all these possibilities, when you're, and again, that idea of the audience being really part of that, and not just like, because when I went back to art school, the idea of like going to galleries and folk would be wandering around, stroking their beard, pretty interesting, pretty cool, man, I don't know, it seemed so cold and detached, but to get folk involved and, try to get that being more like a conversation or a dialogue somehow. And as you say, with music and stuff, I've always kind of still used that because I feel that's a really good way to sort of break the ice with an audience, maybe in a gallery or some situation.
And there's always, I mean, this is how I see it. To me, there's always been an exuberance in what you do. I mean, it's multidimensional, it'll be poignant things and lots of different levels. But there's an exuberance that I think makes things seem inclusive. It's not like, wait a minute, this is, as you say, to stroke the beard. Welcome in. And
I mean, good luck if that's what you want to do and stuff. I just don't know. It's just more of like a monologue that seems like, you do something, it doesn't change, the audience come and see it. But, I think it's, and I see that in a lot of your shows and stuff as well. It's a dialogue, you're talking a lot to the audience. It's, folk are getting involved, and, it's really every moment's kind of special in a way, and I think you're really good at doing that. You sort of activate the moment and get folk involved. And it was interesting, actually. I was looking at a few videos and stuff just when we'd arranged to do this today, and it was really nice because, there's lots of nice Bandits videos out there, but, some are, of course, in like wee clubs, really sweaty, tons of folk. And then there's a couple that I thought, I don't know, I can't remember. It was like outside somewhere, and there's about 20 folk in front of the stage, but it was a big stage.
There's a big screen behind us.
Totally.
Yeah, it was Party at the Palace.
Was it? Right?
It looks like we're almost like playing like a major festival, but the audience is
that's
tiny.
like 10 o'clock at like sort of Glastonbury, or like one of these sort of 60s, sort of.
Well, we were still going for it.
But that was it. You were still totally you and doing that thing, and obviously the band's great as well, although the band changes a bit. I suppose depending on availability and things, but all the players are great, and it just really, and you're kind of making that happen, and even though it's just a few folk at the front, so I think that's, you're activating all these moments and with audiences, and you can actually see in those ones, people are like actually streaming down the hill sort of as you're playing, because they're sort of like drawn to like a magnetic force.
Piper.
Yeah.
So go all to the river and they all jumped in.
yeah.
But it's
getting some serious drugs, I think it was at the time.
It's a popular song.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a funny thing, because that whole thing of the thing about me doing that no matter what the audience is and all that sort of thing is, I think part of that comes from a thing that I always think of it being just as important, and it's all part of my work of art. And my work of art is my life.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I would read interviews by, some of these wee kind of contemporaries of ours when we were kind of younger musicians or artists, and you get people in bands kind of going, yeah, I hate it when people in bands say they're artists, and it's so pretentious. And I'd always be, no, I aspire to be an artist.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm just not very good at drawing and things like that, so I'm choosing to do it using this medium, which
well, in the Soup Drags we got it in the neck, because on the first album, we used this artwork that I made that said, "This is our art, useless, boring, impotent, elitist, and very, very beautiful," and this big star in the front of the record, And that definitely, T-shirts and all that, and that got us a few slag offs.
Yeah, people find that sort of stuff. It's like, I think now there's a bit of that era in creativity where that was a provocative statement, and it was a statement you guys would have known. Some people would have been like, they'll just take it almost literally and go, oh yeah, so they're admitting they're bland and elitist and blah 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 blah. And other people would see beyond that, and some people would see the humour in it and all these sort of things. But now it feels to me like there's something that people are treading a little bit too carefully with that sort of stuff, because they don't want to be ambiguous. Yeah. Because ambiguous can be dangerous, and if people take it the wrong way, they can be offended. Do you think is that a climate that's a problematic thing for creativity?
God, I mean, I think it definitely can be, and I mean, obviously there's a lot of complicated issues around the sort of various politics of some of these issues specifically, but I think generally that sense of lack of willingness to offend can lead to sort of conservatism, really, in culture. So I think, and it's, in a sense with when I'm talking to students, I mean, often the bottom line with them is that you've got to say to them that really the most interesting thing that you can do is just exactly what the fuck you want to do, exactly what you want to do. And it's not to kind of get a good degree, and it's not to sort of please the tutors, and it's not to sort of fit into some academic framework. It's just this thing that's kind of, you take the world in and it kind of goes through you as a filter, then it kind of comes out the other side in whatever way you kind of see that, and that's the only unique thing we've all individually got, that we are us and the world kind of comes through us. And if we are making culture in some way, or we are doing something, that comes through us, and it's everybody's got this some unique viewpoint. And I think that's the thing you've got to kind of hold on to. And I think that's the crying shame if folk feel they're sort of self-censoring and not wanting to kind of get that out and say their piece and do the thing that's really them, because then that's just becomes the old sort of cliche in a way. It's better to sort of regret something you have done than something you haven't done, in a way.
Some of the things I'm most pleased with in my own creative life are things that actually paint me out to be a little bit daft and a bit vulnerable and a bit silly, rather than the things that make me out to be really cool. It's often like if I put myself in a precarious place. And is there times when you've been creating, you've sort of had that thing of kind of going, I'm putting myself in a wee bit of a place where do I feel comfortable with this? But I'm going for it.
Yeah, I mean, quite often, really. And, actually, it's a bit hot, so I'll take my jacket off and give you a flash of, I don't know if you got how the focus is doing and all this, but, 25 years ago, you know, I had this tattoo made in my back, you know, that says real life.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years ago, I added on that is dead, you know. So I do quite a lot of these sort of, I suppose, performance sort of based things where I'm kind of doing something with my back to the audience, which of course quotes from all these classic jazz or Velvet Underground or however you want to pull that down. So in a way, when I'm doing these things, I'm usually wearing a pair of tartan shorts or something and nothing else, and just sort of put myself in some environment that I've sort of created, almost like a sort of animal in the zoo or something, and doing something, painting or doing music or something. So I'm immediately sort of making myself quite vulnerable and quite kind of, you know, I'm kind of half naked, and I'm usually there for long periods of time, you know, like maybe if the show's on for like a couple of months, I'm there, you know, whatever, X amount of times a week for a few hours and kind of really doing stuff. And I don't know, I feel that that's quite a sort of, I mean, that's always a bit of a leap of faith to get into these sort of things and to do that. But I feel it's nice because it sort of paradoxically, I'm sort of turning my back on the audience, but then it opens up another kind of relationship because I'm sort of like all kind of, not vulnerable exactly, but you know, it's sort of, it's a weird kind of relationship which I quite like, you know.
Well, I totally clicked with the whole tattoo thing, and I mean, tattoos are now kind of omnipresent.
Yeah.
But even, it's not that many years ago, what, 20 years ago the first bit of that tattoo came
25 years, 25. The real life bit,
so, back then, tattoos were not as omnipresent as they are now.
No, definitely not.
And the idea of people getting a tattoo for something like that is something I totally clicked with. We did a Serge Gainsbourg tribute show. I don't know if you know this story, but hopefully you'll approve of it. And we made up some Serge Gainsbourg t-shirts. Serge Gainsbourg, a French singer-songwriter. And I thought, as a gag, I had this idea in my head, a gag I could say, if you want something more permanent, why not get a Serge Gainsbourg tattoo? And then I thought, well, I could draw someone, it looks like one. And I thought, well, I can't draw one, because then it's not a good gag. It has to be a real tattoo. So I got a tattoo of Gainsbourg just so I could say that at the show.
Nice one.
And I thought, but that makes that show better. And it's a one night only thing. I've got this tattoo that I got basically so I could make a gag. But for me, that's important, because it's like, and it makes you feel more of a commitment to what you're doing.
Absolutely. And part of the reason, I mean, it's a sort of complicated story. There's a Scottish artist who was living in New York, and then he went to LA, and I went to sort of do a bit of studying there with him. He's the dean of a school called California Institute of the Arts, and he ran this magazine in New York in sort of 79, 80, 81 called Real Life Magazine, and published the first writing by folk like Jenny Holzer and Barbara Kruger, and sort of a lot of kind of really interesting arts that were coming out then. And anyway, the magazine had been going for years and years, but when I was out in LA kind of with him in like 92 or something, I sort of was having this idea about this tattoo, and we sort of hatched it together, and he said, look, if you get it done, I'll pay for it to be done, and we're doing this last issue of the magazine, number 23, to see your Psychic TV tattoo. That we'll put it on the cover of it, sort of thing. So that's what we did. He paid for it, and it was on the final cover of this Real Life magazine, which was really nice. And actually, he was there. I was talking to you about being in Texas a couple of weeks ago. He was there as well. But for me, you know, I knew all the things that I do work-wise, as we've sort of discussed. There's music, there's sculpture, there's installation, even some painting sometimes, lots of different things. So formally, it's always really different. So in a way, this sort of real life idea for me was a way to sort of have an umbrella that went over that sort of gathered it together a bit. And although formally it would all look sort of different, so every exhibition I did might have a different quality or using different materials and stuff, but there was a sort of overarching, I suppose, a sort of conceptual framework, not to be too grand about it, but a sort of idea that would go through all the things and kind of link them together.
It's almost like having a band name in a funny way.
It is, actually, you know, it is that. And actually, that's strange. I've never really thought about it in that way, but now you mention it, it really is. And probably in a subconscious way, that's another thing I'm drawing back from this sort of music thing, you know, in a way, or the band thing, you know, and that sort of sense of how that, you know, you have the band has an identity that's, you know, well, almost not in your case, but it's more than the sum of the parts of all the people involved. Of course, you are completely synonymous with the Bandits, but...
No, but it's still a very collaborative thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're always writing with people and stuff, and so yeah.
And you've made as part of the thing. And it's not, that's the other thing. Some people would go, you know, you get guys like Russell Crowe, I'm not comparing you to Russell Crowe, but he's an actor, right? He's an actor. And then he'll have his band, and he'll make some records, right? But if you try, you know, if you're doing an interview about his band, it's like, I don't want to talk about the acting because they're separate. You know, he's compartmentalising these. But for you, I would say it seems very much, when you make a record, that's just as much the art as the tattoo in the back or the installation or the neon lights.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was telling you, this one was nice. It's nice bit of blue vinyl, you know. But, you know, it's just Real Life is Dead, Long Live Real Life. And it was for a project I did in China where it was a long gestation of this project. It was a couple of years ago, a sort of solo show at this museum in Shanghai. And actually, I developed a bit of a project with some of my students at the time, and we did a bit of a band thing, and we did a project in Dundee for a few days where we sort of basically jammed these songs that I'd kind of written, and I took them to them and we sort of played them around for a couple of days in this sort of installation that I'd made. And then we did the thing at Capri Improv where we played with Alistair Gray, which was amazing, you know. They were like, wow, you know. I was like,
well, he's
wow.
amazing.
And, you know, and he even did the sort of intro. He read out the start of Moby Dick while we were kind of... okay, it's a sort of complicated tale. But as I was saying to you, we did the record in China, but then it got kind of banned and they refused to put any music on it. So they printed up all the records.
They allowed Wham, but not...
I know, and they were all on the wall and stuff, but there was no music on them. It was totally bizarre. So anyway, when we came back afterwards, it was organised by a woman called Sophia Howe at Cooper Gallery in Dundee. So she was great. She said, look, we'll press up another kind of... And it's a sort of small... It's 276 because it's one for every month from when I had the Real Life tattoo done to when I added it to make it Real Life is Dead. So it's 276 months. So that's the additions, 276. So, but that was really nice to work with these students. They're all young people, mainly women actually. And, you know, they've got a sort of idea about making music. And, you know, in a way it's, you know, I'm certainly not virtuoso and they're not. It's about us playing together and just making something out of this song. And again, quite a collaborative way. And we went to Green Door, you know, in Glasgow and recorded it, which was really nice as well, and super sort of analogue. And then did that, and then they all get a few copies and things. And yeah, I've done some other projects, one collective in Edinburgh, where basically I gave away all these musical instruments. We did a big exhibition, and I managed to get some extra money, and we bought enough for like 5 bands worth of equipment. So electric guitars, amps, bass guitars, amps for them, drum kits, vocal PAs, mics, the whole kit and caboodle. And basically after the show, in the show, you could sort of play some music. There was a bit of a rehearsal room or paint a placard and do all these different things. At the end of the show, we gave away all the gear to these people, and it was sort of free electric guitars for teenagers. The conceit of that one was that you had to be born after 1994 when I had the first tattoo made, which basically makes you a teenager. So, but anyway, we had sort of 5 bands and we worked with them for almost 2 years actually, doing a whole load of sessions about songwriting and design and legal stuff and lots of different things, and then did a big show at the end of it. And they asked them what did they want to do with this stuff, and I thought they might want to, you know, start a website or do something digital, but they all said, what, do a record, you know? So I don't have it with me, unfortunately, but we did this album in green vinyl, and that was sort of 20 Years of Real Life, it was called. It was a bit of a sort of retrospective, but in a way I wanted that retrospective to jump forward rather than looking back too much.
It's pretty interesting because it's almost like, maybe even not think about it, they went for the real life thing. Because, I mean, I know this is all to do with interpretation, it's possibly, I'm thinking about it a completely way. The Real Life is Dead thing partly feels like there's maybe, I'm sure it's multi-layered, but it's possibly some sort of statement of the world moving over to this virtual form of life. Yeah. And they guys rejected the virtual form and went, no, I want an actual
it's
object.
Yeah. No, it's true. And, well, I sort of see with my own kids as well, actually, that although, I mean, they're sort of double-handed in a way, you know, they use digital, they listen to everything on their phones and all that, but they really like the idea of records as well. And maybe that's because I really like that in a way, but You know, I remember my eldest Grace, we went to see the Mary Chain at the Barrowlands when the first gig, maybe about 5 years ago, when they hadn't played for a wee while and they played again. Maybe it was Psycho Candy, they were playing again. And just before we were going out, she was looking at that album and, you know, the one I've had forever on vinyl and looking at it and stuff, and she's saying, oh, it's amazing when you look at the vinyl, you feel so much more connected to the band. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of it, you know?
Yeah.
But then it was, those shows were recorded and they put them out as a live album on Record Store Day on red vinyl. And I bought one for her, and lo and behold, we opened it out and there's this crowd scene on the inside and you can just see the back of her head sort of thing. So it's amazing in the end. It sort of turns out that she sort of was kind of
documented as part of the event,
which was a bit for us. Obviously, it's like it was interesting to see it, and I think I went to another one. I thought, okay, that'll do. I think, you know,
but there is something beautiful about. I mean, I'm not anti the digital world, but there is something beautiful about even just that sound of a needle going down, and it goes, whatever, maybe even, but you know,
most of mine is.
Yeah, but it's a kind of the flaws. It's that thing again about these things haven't been ironed out, and again, I think that's kind of almost relates to the self-censorship thing. It's not.
Yeah.
We're not over polishing things.
Yeah.
Like before, I'm sure you don't mind me talking about. We're of a similar age. I would say you're in a bit better shape, perhaps, than I am. But I can't imagine before you're doing that, you're going standing in front of the mirror, going, man, right, I'm going to be doing this in a month. I'm going to make sure I really slim down, get myself pretty buff for this, because you're actually presenting you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just it, warts and all, you know. So it's, and again, for me, it's just that it's about sort of trying to connect with somebody who's looking at the things you're doing or listening. And maybe that's the record thing as well, because again, it's just that thing of putting the needle down that you're talking about. I mean, I like records and I buy records still and everything. But I mean, actually, I don't really know if I think the sound's any better or whatever. I just like records. I like the relationship I've got with them. I like putting it on. I like turning it over and all the rest of it. So in a way, that's about a sort of relationship. And it is maybe what Grace was saying. It's about this closer relationship with the band or the sound or the music or something.
There's a ritual.
Yeah, and it's a relationship, you know. And okay, it's different with folk, you know, like you put on a Bandits record or something, and you know, obviously that's a whole other realm of knowing the folk and everything and remembering whatever one it is, you know. But again, I think, you know, the key thing for me with sort of, I suppose, with that ritual of the records, it is about sort of like keeping some bond or connection or something or relationship, you know, which is, again, when I think about making some kind of exhibition or installation or artwork or project or something, always the first thing I'm thinking about is people and who might see it and where it is and how they might come across it and how they could engage with it and really what sort of conversation you could set up with folk, you know, that, I mean, maybe not a literal conversation, but, you know, there could be ways of kind of getting them in, and as I say, with music, it's a sort of way of doing that for me, but also maybe with the music for me, it's because I've been doing the whole art thing for a long time, that becomes a wee bit of a sort of maybe front of the brain kind of thing where I'm kind of, and because I'm working at the art school and talking about art a lot and reading about art, and you know, that's becomes a wee bit of more of a cerebral kind of sort of thing in a way. And for me,
does music become a playtime?
Well, in a way, you know, I quite often when I've got a project on the go and I'm just at the start of it, I sit there with a guitar and just like mess around, fart about, you know, that way. And maybe a wee thing comes out, or maybe a wee riff or a wee something, and sometimes that builds into something that I can use in the show. It becomes a wee song or something that turns into a record or whatever. But other times it's just a way, I think, where I can feel quite intuitive and quite sort of like unfocused and, you know, be doing something that's a sort of creative process and build something, but it's not a kind of like, okay, now I've got to think about what I'm going to do for this thing. I've got to tell them by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. You know, it's just more of a kind of, and that's maybe coming, I don't know, I said it to someone before that I don't know if it's a left and right brain thing or the back or the front, but it's almost like this intuitive thing sort of creeps up from the back, and maybe there's something a wee bit more focused going on at the front, and then they sort of meet in the middle, somewhere in there, in the big sort of black hole in there. And that, for me, that becomes quite a nice sort of conversation between something a bit more focused and, I don't know, magnified, and then this other thing which is a bit more abstract, and I can indulge myself a wee bit through the music, and then they sort of maybe meet in the middle somewhere, and it's a quite nice balance of a sort of conceptual sort of strategy and a kind of intuitive process somehow.
Feels to me I think it's kind of evident, there's quite a lot of humour in a lot of things you do. And I think maybe it doesn't just happen for people who've got kind of a bit of humour in work. But Norman, our mutual friend Norman Blake, Teenage Fan Club X of the Bandits, is often said that he thought one of the things you needed to be a BMX bandit was not be frightened of ridicule. But I sort of think to be an artist, to be an artist of really any worth and have work of any worth, it's the same thing. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah. I mean, as I said, I think you've absolutely just got to be true to yourself and just stick to your guns and do exactly the things that you think are the right thing to do, no matter what anybody else thinks. Because I think it's like anything else. When you start worrying about what other people are thinking, whether it's, a gallery you're working with or a museum you're making an exhibition for, or
the people on the bus.
Yeah, or somebody who runs a record label you're on, and then you know what it's like. As soon as these conversations start, you just start thinking, shit, that's all wrong. That's the wrong balance of things. So, yeah, you put yourself up to ridicule, but I mean, the way I sort of feel about it, I think it's almost, that's just a side effect. If that's what happens, so be it, bring it on. If you're going to be up there and
particularly, I always found that stimulating.
Yeah.
I sort of, and I mean, I think we were both in bands, and just the way we were walking around Glasgow at the time, you weren't getting many people dressing alternatively then.
No, definitely.
So you would get people kind of shouting out at you and people throwing things at you on stage and all that. And I always saw it as a kind of like, we've achieved something, we've provoked.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I mean, I suppose that's quite different now, but I mean, of course, obviously it's at the danger of sounding like, two old guys remember, but, like Glasgow in the 80s is not kind of Glasgow now,
It was a very oppressive and dark city.
And very sort of straight, kind of in all ways, really, So even just to be a bit alternative or have coloured hair or wear like pyjamas instead of clothes or whatever we were doing at the time, definitely.
You're putting yourself in the line,
I definitely, over the years, had a couple of doings, and whatever it was, But again, that was part of finding your own kind of family in a way. And, when I went to art school, I really felt that, that was, I never really connected with folk I knew at school that well and stuff. And it was when I went to art school, I thought, God, I just found, here's folk who are all like me, who are, or not all like you, but all like, brothers and sisters. And and I always like your thing, you're always like brothers and sister and rock, when you're kind of talking to folk. But I really like that idea that,
it's an extended family.
Absolutely, and it is folk who are kind of singing from the same hymn sheet in some way, although everybody's doing different stuff and different, engage in this creativity in lots of different ways and different places. But that's part of a sort of attitude to life and creativity that's, for me, really the only way to sort of exist in the 21st century in any sort of meaningful way, And okay, you can't escape from money and capitalism and all the rest of it, but, to try to make a life for oneself that's engaged in creativity and dialogue and a kind of common conversation somehow. And that's not necessarily, it can be good, it can be bad, it can be critical, it can be tough, it can be soppy, it can, it's not based on a kind of subject or a way of doing that, but it's just to have that creative energy and to be able to try to be able to do that in this really difficult kind of contemporary economic, social, cultural sort of situation.
Yeah, I mean, and it was difficult when we were growing up as well. There was a fear of nuclear war, and there was
that's
so many
coming
people
back,
losing
isn't
their
it?
jobs.
So,
and so it was dark and difficult times, and but But I often felt that, I found myself in this world that I wasn't fully satisfied with. And I think that's a common thing for a lot of creative people. So you actually start making your own alternative reality almost.
Yeah.
I'll create my own world,
Yeah.
which is beautiful and inspiring. And as you say, it can be critical and it can have anger for some people in it. But you're creating almost like, you're making your own real life.
Absolutely. And, I think that's important, that the process of doing that is quite sort of diverse and quite kind of complex. And, I see it with you, and obviously the BMX Bandits have a certain sort of reputation. And as you said, you're not scared of ridicule and being up there and making it happen every night sort of thing you're playing. But, of course, I don't need to tell you that you don't need to dig too deep to see that there's a lot of BMX Bandits songs and a lot of your words and that are, there's kind of heavy sometimes, and you're dealing with serious drugs, with serious issues and things that are important and acknowledging that it's not all just plain sailing and there are, to sort of have that, it's not quite have that, to claim that freedom brings a sort of responsibility as well, that to keep that going, to keep that sort of life developing and progressing. You have to be a bit selfish, but then you have to kind of also acknowledge that it's kind of not always easy and there's loads of tough times and no one's kind of running down the road throwing roses after you to kind of keep going and writing the next song or making the next artwork or doing. You've got to get up every day and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do. No one's asking me to do it. No one really might even want me to do it. No one's paying me to do it. But this is what I do and I'm doing it. And even though here's like 5 years when nothing happened and no one was interested and I was just doing my stuff and keeping it going. But then after that, it was like, oh, where's he been? Let's have that. Oh, God, that's brilliant. Or whatever. And you just got to keep going and you keep at it and you sort of believe in yourself and try to hold on to that, I think.
It's funny because one of the things we were talking about before the camera was rolling, and then I made the thing about, but we are still teenagers when we started talking.
Yeah.
I do actually, one of the things I feel a real link with you in is I meet some people who I know back from the day, and sometimes we do feel like, even if they're sometimes more successful as in the dollars and the name and highlights, sometimes it feels like they've slightly become tired of it.
Yeah.
And I feel that both you and I, in a lot of ways, are as hungry as we ever were. And I wonder, how do you keep that hunger for it?
Oh God, that's a good question. I think that's true, actually. I think it's again, I keep banging on about this idea of conversation or dialogue. I think I'm really sort of, although I don't think I'm that so gregarious all the time, but I think ultimately I'm really interested in people and I think there's something really interesting. It sounds like a terrible cliche, but something really interesting in everybody. But, I think people are endlessly sort of interesting. So I think the things that I do, I'm always really keen to start this new conversation. And, it's difficult because sometimes the things I do can be bigger scale and need somebody to sort of find a space and raise some money and all this. So it can be a wee bit difficult to always activate that in the way I might want to. But when that can happen, I really love to sort of think about, okay, well, how can we do something here that's going to start this sort of some kind of conversation or talk to people. And I think that's what sort of keeps me going. And actually, I speak to somebody just the other day about sort of working in the studio and as an artist, and some folk have a really strong studio sort of practice and they go every day and they make things and then they slowly develop them and things go into exhibitions and whatever. But I find that if I don't have an exhibition on the go or I don't have something I'm specifically making something for, sometimes I sit in the studio and I think, God, I can't find the sort of what am I doing it for? I find I struggle to sort of Not really to motivate myself, because there's always something to do, and I was like,
It's almost like you having a brief to a certain extent, even if it's a brief you're giving yourself.
That's it. Or it's a space, it's a slot, it's a show, it's a sort of, you know, and I think whether that's a show somewhere, you know, in a band sense or a show in an art sense, it's that moment where you know you've got a bit of space to develop something, to do something, to build something up, to have a bit of time, and then for, you know, when it's an art thing, it's, you know, that could be a few weeks, could be a month, could be a couple of months. So there's sometimes you think, okay, could be longer than that. And you think, okay, that's a bit more time. So I could think about doing something that maybe has a bit more of a slower rhythm to it, or, you know, things happen over the period of the show, or things just stay again. Somebody was that today or yesterday? I did this project in Leipzig in Germany in like 2000. And it was 10 years of German reunification after the wall. The show was called Neues Leben, which was the name of the DDR, the East German publishing house that published all the kind of Soviet sort of propaganda stuff and things. So this was like the ironic title. It was all works around the city. And anyway, I did this sort of mural. It was real life and how to live it geography. And it was like burn your passport, abolish borders, you know, all this sort of thing. Really just opening everything up. And it was supposed to be up for like 3 months or something. And periodically, folks send me a picture on like Instagram, something saying, "Hey, saw this thing in Leipzig. You know, it's still there.
Well,
you know."
great.
And so this thing's still there, like 20 years later. And it's funny because it was made for this period that was a really specific moment in time. But actually now it's just been there, and folk kind of know it and expect it to be there.
And maybe misinterpret what it was all about in the first place.
Possibly, but again, that's like a long period of time, 20 years for sort of something to kind of be there, or to be in public view. And that's another kind of conversation or dialogue or way of being in a place where I think art can be, you know, something that sort of changes a bit over time as it becomes almost like something you don't notice anymore if you live because it's around the city centre. So it's
also that thing of you're there but you're not there.
Yeah,
you know, even I don't want you to think about this, but even after you're gone, you can still be there.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, you know, Christine, my other half, who's a fantastic artist, she does a lot of things with sort of scientists and the body and skin and different things, some of it quite out there, you know, but we've got this bit of a thing going where, like, if I snuff it first, she'll, like, a bit like that Tales of the Unexpected, she'll get the tattoo off my back and can do something with it. You remember that Tales of the Unexpected?
Yeah, I do. Derek Jacobi it was, and I think he was the actor, and a great artist had made a tattoo on him, and he ends up in a gallery. My thing is, my partner Chloe wants to have me turned into a skeleton.
Right.
And like have me just sitting in a chair, you know, like wearing some of my clothes, maybe even my cap, I don't know. Just kind of sitting there, so I'll still be, and I'm totally up for that.
Yeah.
But do you know what? Hopefully it'll be a long time.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming by today.
It's
and
a pleasure.
Chatting. And I've got new badges to wear. And,
is that it? Was that just 5 minutes? Or
I mean, but I think we should try and reconvene in another 35 years and see where we're at.
Yeah, that would be it. There'll be all kinds of implants and stuff then to keep us going.
We'll still be teenagers.
Yeah.
I don't take my hat off to you. I put my hat on for you.
Well,
thank you very much.
That's to still being teenagers.
Thank you.
Great stuff.